Welcome back to a brand new video, and this is something that we have never done. This is a complete fall 2024 guide for graduate students who want to study in the US with an emphasis on those that are specifically international students. The most important thing is that for students who want to apply for their master's, if you are currently in your third year, about to go into your fourth year, you should be applying this year itself. Applications open 1 year in advance. Typically between August and November this year, applications will open for next year. So you will be applying then. For PhD students, I would recommend applying or starting the process about 1.5 years before you actually want to start. This is because you have to connect with a supervisor, build working relationships, ultimately increase your chances of getting that research position that you want in a top university. So in this video, we're going to go over what the entire process looks like, what are the standardized tests that you need to give, which test is the best one for you depending on the degree that you're applying for, different admission requirements, funding opportunities, which is very important, and tips for a better profile, ultimately an entire timeline of how you can basically when and how you need to do what process, and lastly, a free application checklist. So let's get started. Now, the first thing is the process itself. It's important that we understand the different types of graduate degrees because there are quite a few. Some of the more popular ones is a Master of Engineering. Now, this is the degree that I did, and this is more industry focused in any field. I did a Master of Engineering in Biomedical Engineering. It's usually 1 to 1.5 years, but it focuses on industry standards, making you ready for the professional world. You have a Master of Science, which is a thesis and non-thesis track, more coursework related. The thesis track includes you finishing a research project and working on a research project. It's usually the pathway students use to transition into a PhD, or if you're not interested in that, you can choose the non-thesis pathway. Engineering management, again, it's very similar to an MBA, but this is a STEM-focused degree, and a PhD that we all know, which usually takes about 4 to 6 years to complete, that a lot of students do as well. Once you know which degree you want to kind of like move forward with, the next step is to take standardized tests. Now, you'll probably be taking 2 tests. One would be an English proficiency test. There are TOEFL, IELTS, Duolingo, many of them out there. My personal favorite is TOEFL. It's widely recognized by almost all the universities, and it's very easy to take, very convenient, easy to prep for as well with all the resources out there. And then you'll either need to choose either GMAT or GRE. Now, unlike undergraduate students, graduate students and most graduate programs have not become test optional, so you will need to give at least GRE or GMAT along with your English proficiency test. But the point is, how do you choose which is the right test for you? And I would say, take some practice tests, identify what the college is asking for. If your degree is more towards the business side of things like MEM, MBA, or, other business related degrees, maybe GMAT might be better. But if your degree is more science related, a PhD, a Master of Engineering, Master of Science, a GRE test might be better for you. In some cases, it is possible to get a waiver for GRE or GMAT if you have exceptional academic grades. In order to do this, you just have to write an email to the university itself requesting them for the waiver. It would be a good idea to attach your transcripts as well to show your excellent academic capabilities. And that's pretty much about it. I've seen a lot of students that I've personally mentored who've gotten this waiver. But on the other hand, if you're someone who hasn't done really well in your undergraduate degree, the GRE or the GMAT can be a really good test to improve and show your academic aptitude. So use that to your advantage. Now, next, we're going to move on to the actual admission requirements. Now, this is what the application portal will typically comprise of. Your personal information, which is, pretty much who you are, where you live, things of that sort. Your academic and supporting information, which we'll go into detail in just a minute. Now, program materials, these are supplemental information. So let's say that you're applying to Cornell University. Now, in addition to these 3 sections, Cornell also may ask you for an academic statement of purpose, which is only for Cornell, and it's different than the personal statement. So supplemental essays, supplemental information will kind of like go into the program material section once you add colleges to your portal. Now, moving on to the academic history and the supporting information. Now, in the academic history, you'll be required to upload your transcripts. Now, this is all like self-reporting, But I've noticed that for most international students, you will be required to have your transcripts evaluated by WES. Now, WES is basically like a widely recognized online website. Check the authenticity of your undergraduate degree, and then they convert your GPA into I think a 4.0 GPA or an equivalent GPA according to the US system. And you do have to do this. It's completely online. It is quite expensive. It's a couple $100, but students are required to do this. So if you're someone who is like sure that you want to get this done, like apply for a master's or PhD in the US, getting started with WES now is a good idea as well. But basically, if you are, let's say, currently in college in your third year, you'll only be required to upload transcripts up until third year. Not obviously you haven't finished the fourth year, so you don't have to upload that. Now, next supporting information are the letters of recommendations. Now, this again can be from your professors or it can be from your colleagues or supervisor if you are a working professional. Any experiences, achievements. You can also add your resume in the document section. The next thing is funding opportunities. And this is, by far one of everyone's favorite things to talk about. But I like to divide this into two parts. There are assistantships, which are wildly popular among graduate students, and then scholarships. So for assistantships, you should probably start reaching out to professors during your first semester, and you can get either an RA or a TA. Now, I've gone into detail of what both of these mean and how much you can earn with each of these in my previous video, so feel free to check that out. I'm not going to dive into that right now, but on average you can earn up to $2,500 per month with these positions. Now, the reason I say from the first semester is because you actually have to be present on the campus to talk to professors and explore these opportunities to actually get them. On the other hand, scholarships are something that you apply before getting the admission, and this is usually done through the CSS profile. They're a lot more difficult for graduate students. For master's students specifically, there are very, very few colleges that accept CSS, but there are some out there. Now, on the other hand, for my PhD degree holders, now, a lot of students don't know this, but all of the PhD programs here in the US are fully funded. You don't have to pay tuition fee and you get a monthly stipend. It's not free, basically. As a PhD candidate, the college automatically enrolls you for these RA and TA positions. So as you're working on your project and your thesis, you are earning money. And you're actually like working, not just getting free money. But the PhD program is fully funded. So you don't have to pay for it. You don't have to apply for like external scholarships to fund your PhD. Lastly, for your application itself, what are some of the things that you can do to make your profile a little bit better? And the first thing is build strong relationships with your professors. Now, I would say recommendation letters matter here for graduate applications much more than they did for undergrad applications. At this point, you're applying for a graduate degree. So they know that you've done one degree already and or you have some experience, which means that you are a fully grown adult and there is another adult who can judge you and talk about your character, your personality, what kind of a person you are. They are interested to know what this other person has to say. Next, start early on your personal statement. This is the number one tip I can give to all graduate students, whether you're applying for any master's degree or a PhD program. Start your application essays right now. These essays aren't like 600 words. They are like 1,500 words. So they go to like 2 or 3 pages. And in some cases, you may need to write more than one. So it's really important that you don't do this last minute. Like, students just need to get over this last minute thing. Like, last minute college applications has never helped anyone. College applications take 6 months to a year to prepare. So the earlier that you start, the better off you'll be. A good thing to note is, as a graduate student, you need to be more technical in your essays. So you're not an undergrad, you're not applying for an undergrad degree. So showcase your skill set, talk about specific projects. That's what I did to get admitted into Cornell. I spoke about my Harvard research. I spoke about some other like projects, that self-started passion projects that I personally did, how I moved them forward, and the technicalities of them. Next, make sure that you actually draft an essay for each college. If you're applying to 5, you should have 5 different essays. Don't just change the last paragraph and last university name and submit the application. It's lazy writing. Colleges will see right through it. Some do's and don'ts, talk about your specific areas and interest of labs that you're interested in working with. mention your career goals. You can basically use like a paragraph to talk about your career goals and explain your prior research like we spoke about. Do not copy and paste from college websites. Writing things like, I wish to be part of Cornell's academic and vibrant community because it'll be good for my professional growth. This sentence has no value. Cornell already knows it's great. They don't need to hear it from you. They want to know why you are good enough for Cornell. So remember that you are trying to convince the admission officer that is reading your letter that, hey, this is me and I've done this stuff and this is why you would be lucky to have me. So turn the table around and think of it as an essay that you're trying to use to impress the college admissions, not just tell them what a big fanboy or fangirl that you are, right? Lastly, the application timeline. So when should you start these things that I just spoke about? Researching universities and finalizing them should happen right now. Start looking at which universities you like, which ones you don't like, which universities have the specific areas that you are interested in career-wise. You're doing a graduate degree. You have a rough idea of what your specialization should be. And not all colleges offer that. So take your time to do your research well in advance. Next thing, standardized tests. You need to take these before applications open in August. Just because get this off your plate. You don't need this stress along with the college applications later on. So along with the standardized tests, I would say essays are something you can start working on the minute you have finalized your universities, because essays don't change. And like I said, the earlier that you start, the better it'll be. So as soon as you know the universities, you can find out what are those essays. It's a quick Google search and you can start working on them. Next, preparing all your documents. Now this can happen in August and September. Now there's one exception to this. I would say start WES if you need to right now. So this would happen like with number 1, because it takes a few weeks. It can also take a few months to do. So you don't want to wait until the college applications actually open to start the WES evaluation. Do that right now. Preparing your documents and actually filling out the college application would be sometime between August and November. Asking for letters of recommendation. Keep about 4 to 6 weeks of buffer time, and that's when you ask. You don't want to ask too early. Like, don't ask right now, because then enough time would have passed and they'll forget. But don't ask too late. Like, you want to give the other person some time to actually work on this. And then you have your scholarships and PhD interviews. So here I want to kind of like mention something for my PhD students. Although you'll still be filling out the application and the college will accept you, then you'll have your interviews with your professors. You can actually start reaching out to professors right now before submitting your college applications. Now, the advantage to that is, let's say that you've communicated with a professor and they've called you in for a virtual interview to understand what your research background is and if you'll be a good fit for their lab. They may not be able to offer you an admission, but imagine a few months later when your application file comes in their hand, they know exactly who this person is. They've already been impressed with your skill set and your research background. It's always nice to have them put a face to like a piece of paper. And you can do that by reaching out to professors well in advance. And that's something, professor outreach for my PhD students, that I would recommend that you start right now as well. It does take time. You have to email many professors. Some of them may not even reply to you. That doesn't mean you don't apply to those colleges, but the few or the handful that actually do, it can really help you boost your application forward. And I think that's pretty much all that I had for this video. I hope that things were a lot clearer. I know that some of you guys may still have some questions, and it's hard to kind of get everything down in one video because there's just so much that goes along with it. If you guys are watching till this point, smash the like button, because this is our very first like master's and PhD video. Let me know what you guys think. If you have any questions, drop those below. I would love to make more videos specifically for graduate students because that's something that, that isn't available on the channel as much as I'd like. So I'd be happy to do that for you guys. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I will see you guys in the next one. Take care. Bye.
Back in that bag again. Whoa, yeah. Hey. Back in that.